Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I want to talk about all the books that I read in the month of March. It was a fantastic reading month for me. I read 10 books. And the weird thing is, though, this video is going to be a little shorter because there's a couple of them that I am not going to talk in detail about, and you'll see why. And then, there's one I can't give you a rating yet because it's a 5-star prediction. So it's probably half of these I'm not actually going to be talking about in great detail because I've already talked about them. So good for you guys, though, a little bit shorter, but I am talking about 10 books. And the quality this month was awesome. Okay, so first I did middle grade March, and I ended up reading 5 books for middle grade March. And yeah, they were great. So I have a reading vlog for these already, and I talked more in detail about each of these books in that vlog, which I just posted. So I don't want to be redundant and go into them again. But really quick recap. I read Al Capone Does My Shirts by Jennifer Kladenko. This was good. I gave it 3 stars. Probably won't continue on in the series, but it was good. And then I read The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise by Dan Guyman-Hart. This was my favorite middle grade book this month. I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. It is a favorite. And then I ended up reading Otter by Katherine Applegate. I got this from the library, and this was so sweet. I absolutely loved it. I read it just in one day, and I gave this one 5 stars too. And it's so precious. Another precious one was the group read, which was A Rover Story by Jasmine Warga. I absolutely loved this one. I thought it was great. I gave it 4 stars. It was lacking a little bit of something to push it up to a 5 for me, but I still really, really enjoyed this book a whole lot, and I will read more from this author for sure, so I'm on the lookout for that, to pick up some more of her things, and yeah, I really liked it. And then the last middle grade that I did read was an audiobook, and I ended up listening to Matilda by Roald Dahl. It is narrated by Kate Winslet, and the narration was phenomenal, and I absolutely loved it. This is one that I listened to in one go because it's very short. And I gave this one 5 stars too. I thought it was great. So again, if you want a little bit more details on my thoughts on these, I go into that in my vlog. So I will link that down below. And another one that I did read this month is Once Upon a Wardrobe. This is by Patty Callahan. This is one of my 5-star predictions. We are doing books that we heard about on podcasts. And this one is one that I heard on the Currently Reading podcast. I think all of mine are from that podcast because that's the main one that I listen to. And I ended up listening to this one on audio. The audio is fantastic. And I don't want to go into detail yet because I'm going to do that in my 5-star prediction wrap up at the end of this month. But I did read it. So I'll say that. And then another one that I read that I don't want to go into too much detail because I've already done an actual full review video just for this book, and that is Finley, Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. This is the book that you guys voted on for me to read from my 2023 priorities list, to read this one first, and I did a review for it, and I loved it. I loved it. It was 5 stars. It was so much fun. This is set locally to me, so I knew some of the places that she was talking about in this book, and I thought it was a blast. Is it silly and over the top? Yeah, but I still loved it. I had a great time reading it, and we'll definitely read the rest of the books as well. So if you want to see, again, more details, I will leave my review video down below. Okay, so now let's talk about books that I can tell you more about. The first one is Remarkably Bright Creatures. This is by Shelby Van Pelt. And this one I buddy read with Jenny. I listened to this one on audio, and the audiobook narrators are Marin Ireland and Michael Urie. The narration was fantastic, especially for the octopus, whose name is Marcellus. His full name is phenomenal. I don't want to say it because I think when you read it in the book or listen to it, it makes you giggle, so I won't spoil that. But his full name is fantastic. He hates it, but it's so good. This follows a woman who is older. She's in her 60s or 70s, I think, and she is working as a janitor at an aquarium in the Seattle area. And she is dealing with some loss in her life that she has experienced. And she lives in this small town, so everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's business. It's a whole thing. And she ends up really forming this bond with this giant Pacific octopus who is in the aquarium, whose name is Marcellus. They really form this bond, both of them. And she really turns to him when she needs to, or she feels like she needs to talk to somebody. She talks to him. And then you also see her outside of the aquarium and what's going on the outside, things that she's experiencing and stuff. So you're getting, both in the aquarium where she's having encounters with Marcellus, and then outside where she's having encounters with the people in her life. And there's multiple perspectives in here. So you're getting her, you are also getting Marcellus. You guys, the narration for Marcellus in the audiobook is perfect. He is very pretentious. He is very intelligent, and he makes sure that you know that. He uses big words. He is so snarky. The way he counts down, he has a countdown he's counting days, and just the way he describes it is so funny. It's just, I lived for Marcellus's chapters. Every time one of his chapters came up, I was like, yes. And I was so excited, and he made me laugh constantly. So it was great. There is also another perspective that you get in here as well from one of the other characters. So you have 3 different perspectives going on. And I just loved my time listening to this book. I always wanted to keep going. I didn't want to put it down. Jenny and I both kind of flew through the last 2 hours of it, and it was just so delightful. And I loved the story. I loved the characters. I loved where it went. And I just thought it was fantastic. Like, this is one of my favorites of the year. It was 5 stars. I loved it. I will recommend this up and down. I've already recommended it to people at the store. I loved it. It was great. The next one that I read is one that I picked up on NetGalley, and that is The Best Friend. This is by Jessica Fellows. This one is one that I listened to on audio because my library had it available immediately. And I was kind of doing one of those things where I was scrolling through Libby and just whatever popped up first is what I listened to. I do that every so often. So that's how I ended up listening to this one. And big bonus that it was a NetGalley book. And this was narrated by Antonia Beamish. This was a miss for me. This is definitely marketed as a mystery thriller, and that's where it is at Barnes & Noble. I disagree with that. This one is more toxic friendship. There's not really a mystery to it. It definitely wasn't thrilling. I thought it was kind of boring. I don't know. So you're following these 2 women who become best friends when they are young and they're in school. And you follow them throughout their entire lives and their interactions together over the course of their entire lives. And I don't know. I didn't care. They were not good to each other at all. It was a toxic friendship. And it was very heavily on the side of one of them. And I just sat there going, why are you still friends with this woman? Like, she's terrible. And you're watching her do these terrible things, and you're experiencing her do these terrible things to you, and you are still friends with her, and you still keep running back to her. So it was hard for me to not be okay with it, because I don't have to be okay with it, but it was hard for me to enjoy the book because I was just so frustrated. I was just like, leave her, like, this is not a person you need in your life. I don't know. I didn't like it. It didn't work for me. And that's okay. So this one was a 2-star for me. 2 stars because I rarely give out 1 stars, but I did finish it. So if I had, if I DNF it, then I don't rate it. But so 2 stars for this one. It just, wasn't my favorite, but I got a NetGalley book read. And then I do have another NetGalley book that I ended up DNFing. So I'll talk about that real quick, and then we'll get into good stuff. So this one is called Maybe One Day. This is by Debbie Johnson. And I was just kind of scrolling through my Kindle and decided I would pick that one up. Sure, why not? And yeah, I DNF'd it. I got maybe 25% into this book and I just, again, didn't care. We are following a woman who has lost her mother, and in the very opening of the book is her mother's funeral. And then she goes back to the house and she is with her cousin, and they are starting to go through some of the stuff and starting to prepare and, doing all that. And I mean, 25% into the book, we were still in that scene. So that was a lot. It did go back in time a little bit, and showed a couple things, but I don't know. It seemed to not really be going anywhere. And it's leading up to this whole thing about there's something in this box, and they found this box, and she has this big reaction to this box. And I was like, I don't care what's in the box. I don't care. And I don't know. We started to get little hints of things, and I was just like, I don't want to keep going. So I ended up putting it down and DNFing it. Yeah, it's all right. It's another NetGalley book off my list, but it just, I don't know. It wasn't for me. I kind of liked the character of her cousin. He was funny, but not enough to keep me going. So yeah. Okay. Last but certainly not least, because this is now my favorite book of the year. I did it, guys. I am that person. I am that person who is obsessed with House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. That is me now. This is who I am as a person. I loved this. I loved this with my entire being. Okay. I am going to be having a video come out soon because this was for my I Was So Excited book haul revisit, and this is the one that I had picked from that one. So I will be kind of wrapping this one up and then doing another round soon. But I 100% just fell in love with this world. Now, this is Sarah J. Maas's first adult book, and I can tell you, after having read her young adult stuff, and then the Throne of Glass series is young adult, the ACOTAR series, the Court of Thorns and Roses series, that was originally young adult, but they have since moved that to the adult section of the bookstore because that is not for children. And this is just knowing that this is marketed for adults and she wrote this for adults just took it to a whole nother level for me. And this is where it's at for me. I did like her other two series very much, very much. I have continued to read those. But this was just, I don't know, it was top notch. Okay, so these characters in here are just fantastic. We are following a girl named Bryce, and she is living in Crescent City, which is a world full of magic. There are magic wielders, there's angels, there's demons, there's, one of her best friends is like a fawn. It's everywhere. Okay. Bryce is half fae and half human. And, so she's considered like a half breed, but we are following Bryce as she experienced something very traumatic in her life, which just completely changes her life altogether. And there are certain things that are starting to happen, especially to Bryce, where she needs to have some sort of protection. In walks Hunt, who is an angel. He is dealing with his own situations in his own life and the roles that he plays in this whole society. And you watch these two try to figure some things out and try to find some things. And I can't go into much detail because I went into this one really blind, and I'm so happy I did. But I will say that Hunt is probably my favorite male character ever. He is so good. He is so good. And them two together, like their dynamic was really good. Okay. Now I will say this, if you're going to go into this one, it took me probably 50, 60 pages before I was on board, because at first I did not like Bryce. She had some behavior that really just bothered me, and to a point where I was texting my friend Brittany from Rescues and Reads, because she was pushing me to read this. And I kept texting her. I was like, tell me that she's not like this for the next 800 pages, because if she is, I can't do it. And she said, keep going. I was like, okay. And I did. And I'm so happy I did, because, yeah. All right. Just when I was starting to get irritated, it flipped. And I was really happy with that. And I did not want to put it down. It was so thrilling. And the magic system in here is just so good. And Sarah J. Maas is just really, really good at really punching you in the face in the last part of her books. That's exactly what happened in this one. It was just, I could not turn the pages fast enough. And I just kept going, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Oh my gosh, that's so creative. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And yeah, I loved it, guys. I actually didn't expect to love this as much as I did, but wow. I think this is my favorite of hers. And I've read almost everything. I still have a couple more to go, but almost everything. Yeah. So loved it. 5 stars. Favorite of the year so far. Yeah. Okay, guys, that is what I read in the month of March. Really successful, especially number-wise, and I did have a DNF, and I did have one disappointing book, but the rest of them were pretty darn good. And a whole bunch of 5 stars, and my favorite book of the year so far. So March was a good month. Very happy with it. Let me know down below if you have read any of these. Let me know if you're interested in picking any of them up after hearing me talk about them, and I will see you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.